Welcome to the Point of More Return, practical tips for sourcing high ROI inventory. It's an honor to share with you today. I'm Anna Packer, and I've sold thousands of miscellaneous items on eBay over the last 6+ years. I'm so thrilled to bring you some ideas today about identifying items that will give you the best return on investment. That means we're talking sourcing, which is personally one of my favorite activities. It keeps my store going and growing, keeps my inventory fresh and strong. We like to acquire something awesome for cheap, sell it for a satisfying price, and rinse and repeat. That's the reseller rhythm. Source, sell. Source some more, sell some more. It's fundamental and it's fun. What more could we want? Well, you're listening to this talk, so I'd be willing to bet that you want better returns. And listen, I'm right there with you. Every tip I'm sharing has been road tested in my own store. What works for me might not be a perfect fit for you, but my hope is that something you hear today sparks your own creativity and propels you to action in your own business. You'll probably hear plenty of ideas you've thought of or heard before, but I want to challenge you to listen closely for one simple thing to try out. And once you find it, take it personally. Because one simple thing might make a huge difference in your returns on your investments. It could be a broader idea or the tiniest nugget of information, so listen up and be on the lookout for it starting right now. And don't worry if your store looks nothing like mine, because there will be a little something for everybody. Feel free to drop your one simple thing in the chat as soon as you find it. Now, we're going to cover a few crucial angles of how to identify high ROI items, including all about ROI, like what it is and what it means for us in particular, going where the good stuff is, finding the good stuff when you get there, and becoming better sourcers, because yes, we all have room for improvement. The search for high ROI items has been climbing my own priority list this year. Since eBay opened last year, my inventory and I have moved hundreds of miles away to a new place in a totally different storage situation, and I've actually sold down a considerable chunk of my large inventory to prepare for moving. So now, as I'm finding a new normal for my store, I really want to focus on replacing the value of my items rather than just the quantity as they sell through. I have about 10,000 items in my store at the moment after it's been pared down, and I've always relied on a large inventory base to create stability for my income as an eBay seller. So for me, now's the time to fine-tune my approach to sourcing in order to maximize my own returns. But the truth is, even if today is your very first day as an eBay seller, it's never too early to get great at finding the best stuff to sell. Why? Because at the end of the day, we all want a more satisfying return on our investment. So let's get on the same page about ROI, because if we're going to aim for it, we need to know exactly what we're after. We'll take the phrase a piece at a time, beginning with the end, the investment. So think, what's been invested in this item? What did it cost you to acquire, list, and sell it? Your investment includes multiple upfront costs, and I'm here to tell you that all of them count and deserve consideration in your returns. Of course, the investment side of the equation includes what you pay for an item, also known as the cost of goods, and then there's the elbow grease factor, any time or labor cost for getting that item repaired or cleaned up, completed, whatever it needs. There's processing, time, effort, and resources to get the item listed and maybe even promoted. And then there's also the cost of storage space. And even if you don't explicitly pay for storage space, every item costs you some actual space in your finite physical storage capacity. So as you can see, the investment side of the equation is actually a little bit more than a few pennies or dollars. Wouldn't you agree? When you fully understand your investment, you can fully consider what you want in return for that investment. The return side of the equation is a little bit simpler. It's just what it sounds like. It's what you get back when you sell, including another tally on your scoreboard of successful sales, hopefully some positive feedback, freed up space on your shelves, experiential education about what to source and what not to source, and of course, financial profit, which I suspect is the one we're most interested in. So you're clear on what you're willing to put in and what you want to get out. How do you find things that will give you the best ROI when you're out there sourcing? Well, it's hard to identify the good stuff if you're never near it. And each one of us must go where the good stuff is. And often good stuff is overlooked, hiding in plain sight. If we want to identify these amazing items in the wild, we need to be looking in the right places. The good news is there are so many right places to source. And here's a general list of the types of places I have sourced over the years and found things that have sold on eBay. Now, this list is far from exhaustive, but you can see there are loads of different kinds of sources where good stuff might be lurking at this very moment. Everything from retail outlet stores to charity shops to yard sales and estate sales. You can even source on eBay. And if you're scrappy and brave, you can always keep your eyes peeled for treasure that's literally in the trash, on the curb, or in a dumpster. Yes, I have done that. So keep in mind, this is just a sample of places I've sourced. And as you can see, there's incredible abundance all around us. There's no shortage of sources, and there's certainly no shortage of stuff. So now might be a good time to ask yourself where you already have sourced, where you haven't, and what you're willing to try out. Do you have favorites or least favorites? Think about why. There are so many places to check and recheck, but even if you're looking in the right places, if you aren't looking through the right lens, you still might not see what you're looking for. Now, I would like to take a moment to challenge the idea that you'll just know it when you see it. Sometimes we make good, educated guesses, but for the most part, I'd argue that the opposite idea would serve us all better. You'll see it when you know it. Most of the time, it's not about being lucky or having a strong intuition, though intuition can develop with experience. Serendipity has a part to play, but I want to encourage you, especially if you're new to selling on eBay or you want to grow your store or even go full-time. You don't have to rely on luck or intuition because you already know a lot more than you think you know, and that's great news. So you won't know it when you see it if you've never heard of it, and we all have a lot more learning to do about the stuff we sell, but there are millions of items out there that you already know about, and many of them are still overlooked. Identifying that good stuff in the moment is a multi-layered task. It's really a skill set, and once you're in a place where the good stuff is likely available, you have to bring some kind of insight to the table, like knowing a little bit about the stuff in your category. You do have to spend the time, but you also really have to spend your attention. If I can, when I go into a place to seriously source, I try to look at everything twice, sometimes in reverse order on the second pass, because I always miss great stuff on the first pass. Showing up to a decent source with your head in the game is how you put yourself in position to notice the good stuff. Noticing is the first step, in which we're broadly looking out for things that grab our attention, like a certain brand name or aesthetic interest, or simply the unusualness of an item. You have to look carefully, slowly, in, around, and behind other items. The goal here is to be focused and thorough, so you can catch plenty in the net of your attention as you cast it over the racks, piles, shelves, boxes, tables, or bins of inventory. It can be a lot to take in. Examining is the next step, and that is where we take a closer look at each item, considering as many specifics as we can. We look at things like the quality of materials, condition, and completeness. Sometimes a unique color is more rare or hard to find. Sometimes a limited or special edition item will make it more valuable, but not always. Does this thing retail new for a high price? Is it a popular searchable brand? In general, the more expensive something is when it's brand new, the more it will sell for used, especially when it's in really good condition. But sometimes what you need to examine involves more the nuances of your category. How is the value impacted for, say, high-end vintage clothing, depending on whether all of its tags are intact, or a rare vinyl record with or without a promotional insert that's usually included in the sleeve? Often when I'm in examination mode, just seeing the cost of goods for an item is all I need to know. For example, there are certain thrift stores, which shall remain nameless, that generally charge way too much for shoes, in my humble opinion. And so it would take a really special, rare, expensive shoe in dang near perfect condition to persuade me to buy a pair of shoes from this particular store. I'm just usually not willing to invest in shoes there because the return is rarely high enough. So once you've noticed and examined, it's time to decide. And this is where you factor in your total investments in this item: time, money, and effort to shop for, list, and ship it, and decide whether it makes the cut. Sometimes it's hard, but on this step, it's important to stick to your standards so you don't end up buying stuff that really isn't up to snuff. And remember, whatever time, effort, and money you spend on inferior items cannot be spent on superior ones. It's worth noting that seeing it when you know it is an ongoing process. I hate to break it to you like this, but it's not possible for any of us to have perfectly complete information about every item at all times. I know, it's a hard truth. But if we continue to actively learn and adapt, we'll have plenty of knowledge to inform good decisions when we source, which leads us to finding and procuring those high ROI items. One great way to build your bank of knowledge is to straight up research if you're into that. You can deep dive into your own sales if you have some record of the things you've sourced and sold. You can look at sold and active listings on eBay. You can spend multiple lifetimes on Terapeak if you're not careful. And if you haven't kept much of a record of sourcing, it's really never too late to start. You can learn from every sale. I highly recommend it. You could also research in the present by conducting little experiments as you source. I think if you're learning from it, then it counts as research. The specific methods are up to you. We'll talk a little more about this in a minute, but the more organic cousin of research is experience. And in my opinion, experience is truly the best teacher. I'm talking about mine, yours, and theirs. That's why being in a community with other resellers, especially eBay sellers, is so vital to our continued success. Sourcing is a dynamic part of our business. It must necessarily change and adapt to the market, and that's a lot to keep up with all by ourselves. But when we can pull what we know and what we've experienced, we can all source better. There's no shortage of avenues that lead to community, so I want to challenge you to find your favorite way to connect with other sellers and make it a priority. Finally, check in with the marketplace. See if the things you like to sell are still bringing a worthy bounty. See if you're still able to find that stuff, or if it's kind of phasing out with the changing of trends. Have you identified one simple thing to try yet? Do you need to try a new lens or expand your community and learn more from others? Okay, gonna switch gears here for a minute to show you with a really personal example how higher ROI really does start at the source. In 2022, my 25 highest sales only cost me about $58 total and yielded over $5,700 in gross sales. These items came from estate auctions, estate sales, and an estate cleanout, flea markets, yard sales, and stuff my friends and family were just going to trash or donate. And what were these lovely top 25 items? Well, allow me to rattle off a few for you. Vintage furniture and fixtures, collectible plates, cool vintage outerwear, original paintings, toner cartridges, collectible bobbleheads, jewelry, high-ended branded women's clothing, and one clown doll. Have I said miscellaneous yet? It's worth mentioning for context that those top 25 were actually really randomly dispersed throughout the year among over 3,800 other sales of less valuable items. The $5,700 or so dollars they brought in was part of a total pot of $96,000 in gross sales. And that's why I love my large inventory strategy. But in the coming years, if more of those 3,800 other sales are items that sell for higher prices, then all of those numbers are going to get sweeter over time. If you have a record of it, I would encourage you to look back and see where your top 25 or even top 10 highest dollar sales were sourced. You might be surprised. Becoming a better sourcer is the final element of increasing your ROI that I want to discuss today. Since ROI starts at the source, this piece of the puzzle is critical. Becoming better includes understanding your place in the reselling ecosystem, working with yourself instead of against yourself, quirks and all, and letting your experience lead you. Zooming out a little, I think if we want to be in proximity to the great items, we need to consider our position in the reselling ecosystem. What's our role in a given sourcing situation? Anywhere my goals and business model are in harmony with my source, I want to look. Think about the strategy of the sources you're scouring. A source might be just trying to offload a bunch of things in a short time and clean out. Hello, yard sales, estate sales, moving sales, or they might want to just keep inventory moving out their front door so there's always fresh stuff on their sales floor. Think about thrift stores and the infamous bins. In any case, I, the sourcer, might pay a tiny fraction of the current market value of an item at a source like any of the ones I just described because somebody has to put in the time to sort and evaluate items. And some of those sources are constantly trying to move mountains of donated items. They only have so much time and effort to spend. So the investment of time gets transferred to us, the shoppers and the sourcers, to comb through the racks and find the hidden and overlooked treasure. The thrift stores are happy because we're moving their mountains one cartload at a time, and we're happy because those cartloads are full of untapped potential and profits for us. That's the kind of harmony I'm talking about. And now I'm going to tell your future. Okay, that title is completely false advertising, but I needed the skeptics to wake up a little bit. Are you still with me? Okay, good. Well, I cannot actually tell your future, but if you describe to me your typical sourcing habits, I could probably make a decently good guess about one specific part of your future as a reseller. My background is in psychology, and from that science, we know that past behavior is a great predictor of future behavior. To put it another way, when we humans find ourselves in a similar situation, we're most likely to react and respond in a way that's similar to how we did previously. There's nothing wrong with that, it's just human nature. By and large, we're inclined to just keep doing what we've been doing, In my experience, the hardest part of improving my approach to sourcing is that tendency to gravitate to the familiar. For example, in the lifetime of my store, if there was an item that was cheap enough and charming enough, I would just get it as a fun experiment, if nothing else. Y'all know I love experiments. These days, though, many of my 10,000 plus items have resulted from those fun little experiments, and frankly, at this stage in the game, I want to be pickier. I confess, I have a major soft spot for coffee mugs. They're dirt cheap at many of my favorite sources. They're fun. Some of them are almost irresistible. However, they frequently sell for only like $12 to $15, and that simply doesn't qualify as high ROI for me. This is where remembering your values and goals as a business owner comes into play. Those can really help motivate me to leave that cute 79-cent mug on the peg and walk away and find something else that will deliver a much better return on my investments. Now that's just me, and I realize not everyone else is just like me, but we all have our own same old tendencies. So I'd encourage you to really lay out how you source and make decisions about purchasing and examine your tendencies to see what adjustments might make the most significant difference. How's that for ROI? Remember when I told you that the more organic cousin of research is experience, and how I insisted that experience is a good teacher? Well, I think experience is such a good teacher, it actually makes a good leader too. And the truth is, you are your best investment. You're the most experienced person on the planet when it comes to running your eBay store. So how can you lead with your hard-won expertise and experience when sourcing high ROI items? When you're looking at an item through the lens of experience, even when a decision seems obvious, I encourage you to take a moment to run it through some questions experience would ask and see if experience agrees with your gut level instincts about an item. Some of the questions are like this. Have I ever seen this before? If so, how frequently do I see it? Have I ever bought or sold it before? How old is it? Who made it? How rare is it? Do they even make this thing anymore? How searchable is it? What's it called? Is it associated with any niche buyers? Does it fit my business model? Do I have room to store this thing? Would I buy this? And how much would I pay? Now, we're not always our own target market, but this can still be a good gut check in absence of other information. These are all just examples of questions experience might ask, of course. So, what specific questions does your experience ask? Take that list and alter it, build on it, grow it with your own experience. Ultimately, what is the point of pursuing more return on your investments? For starters, you can look forward to more return for less investment as you improve over time. And if you can understand your approach well enough to explain it, then you can teach it and scale up if you want to, which has even more potential to increase the returns on your investments. I really want to encourage you to be relentless until your inventory is bringing you a satisfying return on all of your investments of time, effort, and money. It's a continual process of burning off the dross and getting more efficient. When you're getting the most out of the time, effort, and money you spend running your store and your goals are being met, just imagine what you can do in your life with the rest of the time, effort, and money at your disposal. That is the point of more return. So with that in mind, Take stock of your current sourcing strengths and weaknesses. Remember, you'll see it when you know it. Pay attention to how you think about sourcing. Practice noticing, evaluating, and deciding on the items you source. And look for incremental progress. Specifically, look at the value of the items you're sourcing, not just the quantity. Over time, your average sale price should increase as a result of finding those higher ROI items more consistently. Have fun and make a point to stay engaged with your fellow eBayers. Learn as you go. Remember the point of more return and make sure you spend some time living in it. By now, you've identified one simple thing to try out. Hopefully this one simple thing will improve your sourcing practices and land you more, better, higher ROI items. If you want to, share your one simple thing in the chat right now and see what all of our friends here at eBay Open are going to try too. Thank you so much for tuning in. It's been a thrill and an honor to share this with you. If you want to connect with me, I'm Anesthetic Miscellany on eBay and Instagram. And as usual, feel free to take what you like and leave the rest. Thanks for your attention. Godspeed and happy hunting for those high ROI items. I'll see you in the Q&A.